But at the top of the hour, right at the top of the hour, we're going to be speaking with Jeffrey Shapiro. He's the lawyer for the woman who's at the center of this sexual assault case in New York against the former, or maybe still the current head of the International Monetary Fund, Dominique Strauss-Kahn. So we're going to be speaking with the lawyer live in the Situation Room right at the top of the hour. I want to alert our viewers to stand by. They're going to want to watch this live interview. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Well, let's begin with breaking news on the case involving the head of the International Monetary Fund, Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Jeffrey Toobin, our senior legal analyst, is getting new details now on what is going on. Jeff is joining us on the phone. What are you picking up, Jeff?
Well, it looks like the defense will go back to court tomorrow to ask for bail for their client, for DSK. They think that they have a package that the court may accept. There is no deal yet in the works. But this is the main preoccupation of the defense at this point, which is to get this man out of jail so he can start preparing his defense. They think it's bad for his health. They think it's unfair compared to comparably situated defendants. And so there may be another court hearing in the case tomorrow.
And DSK, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, right now he's at Rikers Island. He's in a small jail, denied bail. What would be the main argument why they would give him bail if potentially he's what they call a flight risk, if he could give up $1 million, let's say if he were to be able to provide $1 million in bail, but could still leave the country along the lines of Roman Polanski or someone like that?
That's the argument that kept him in prison. The argument that would get him out was that he would agree to such onerous conditions, including electronic monitoring, an ankle bracelet, including very restrictive conditions, not to leave an apartment, not to leave a hotel room, not to leave an office, and an enormous amount of money, plus the surrender of his passport, all of conditions, the defense would argue, which would make his escape from the United States virtually impossible.
Because I believe, Jeffrey, and you probably know this better than I do, his lawyers, including Benjamin Brofman, one of the best criminal defense attorneys in New York, didn't they make that case to the judge earlier in the week that he would do all of these things? And she rejected all of those conditions.
She did, but that initial appearance was so soon after his arrest. The defense hadn't had a chance to make the full presentation. They hadn't had a chance to talk to the people who do the ankle bracelets. They hadn't had a chance to collect the money, the deeds to homes, the kinds of things that people put up. This will be a more comprehensive presentation, but there is no guarantee that it will succeed. He's still not a United States citizen. He's still a very wealthy man. Those are all arguments to keep him in jail, but the defense thinks they want another bite at the apple here, and they think it is very important both to their client and to their chances of winning to get him out of jail as soon as possible.
All right, Jeffrey, I want you to hold on for a moment and listen. I'm about to interview Jeffrey Shapiro. He's the lawyer representing the woman who's at the center of this case right now. Mr. Shapiro, can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
All right, let me get your immediate reaction to what Jeff Toobin just reported. How do you feel about the possibility of Dominique Strauss-Kahn being released on bail?
Well, certainly from my client's standpoint, the idea that this man would somehow or another be on the streets and free, I'm sure would cause her a great deal of concern. She's very concerned about her security. She's very concerned about what has happened, what this man is capable of, and the fact that he would be free, I'm sure would be something that would she would be very alarmed about.
So you would go argue against any? I assume the prosecution in New York. Give me your experience, Mr. Shapiro. Would the prosecution argue against allowing him to be freed on bail?
Well, you know, in this particular situation, here's a man who was on a plane on his way to France and would have done that, but for the intervention of the police who got him off the plane and arrested him. So, I mean, in my view and my experience, if this man is not a flight risk, I'm not sure who is.
Well, let me bring Jeffrey Toobin back into this argument. Jeffrey, what would be the other argument? He doesn't have a criminal record, Mr. Dominique Strauss-Kahn doesn't have a criminal record. I guess they would make that case.
They would make the case that he doesn't have a criminal record, that he is not a threat to the community given that he would be under such restrictive conditions, and given the notoriety of the case, it would simply be impossible for him to flee the country. And the argument the defense would make is that bail is not supposed to be punishment. Bail is simply supposed to be to protect the community and to make sure someone shows up for court. Both of those conditions would be satisfied, the defense would assert. Thus, he should be released.
Mr. Shapiro, how is your client doing?
Well, you know something? I think she's doing remarkably considering what she's been through, starting with this attack. She's had not a moment of peace since then. She's not been able to go home. She's been separated from her daughter for a considerable period of time. She doesn't know what her future will be. She hasn't been able to get professional help of any sort. She's been subject to the interrogation, but in cooperation, I will say, with the New York City Police Department and the District Attorney's Office. Had trouble sleeping, had to wear the same clothes for 3 days because she didn't have a change of clothes. But if someone could withstand all of that and keep their head held up high and operate, she's been able to do it. So it's extraordinary.
You went with her to the grand jury today. She testified. I know you couldn't go in to the grand jury with her. How did that, based on what you heard, though, what can you share with us? How did that go?
You know, I cannot comment on anything which took place within the grand jury. That solely is within the province of the prosecutor and the grand jury, and I have made a commitment to the district attorney that I would do nothing or say nothing which would hopefully in any way impair what they're doing. So I'd like to keep that commitment.
I understand. Walk us through, though, what you can share with us. What happened? She goes into the room at the Sofitel Hotel thinking she's going to clean the room. Walk us through what happens next.
Well, look, I mean, what's been reported in the press is, essentially, is she went into the room thinking the room was unoccupied. This event took place. She was assaulted sexually and physically. She reported this to hotel security, who then contacted the New York City Police Department, who came to the hotel, interviewed my client. They examined the crime scene, and based upon their professional judgment, of the trustworthiness of her and also what they saw, they caused this man to be arrested.
Did she immediately go to hotel security, her supervisors, and tell this story right after this event, or did she wait?
No, she went there. I mean, she thought that was and believed that that was her obligation to do that. I mean, she was, a very respectful and grateful employee of this hotel and believed it was her responsibility to make this report, which she did.
She made the report right away. Now, in terms of the forensic evidence, and I don't know how much of this you can share with us, but is there bodily harm? Were there bruises, any cuts, anything along those lines that would show that there was a struggle going on?
Again, all of the forensic evidence in this case has been gathered by the district attorney's office. It's within their control. They have it, and I can't comment on it with you, unfortunately, today.
She didn't share with you that she was hurt or anything, that he squeezed her or held her down? Or
I can't. The point is, I can't disclose to you whatever she might have told me about that, because in some way that might interfere with what the district attorney is doing, and I don't wish to do that.
Because her lawyers, Benjamin Brofman among others, they're among the best criminal defense lawyers, not only in New York, but in the country. They might argue this was consensual. His lawyers, I'm talking about, his lawyers, that this was consensual, and they'll say there was no physical evidence showing of coercion. How do you deal with that?
Well, I'll tell you what, when you're a victim of a sexual assault, you really can't take the public stage because you want to be protected. Your identity wants to be protected. You would like to remain anonymous, which unfortunately is not so much happened here, but someday there will be a day in which she will be able to walk into a courtroom and stand before a jury and tell the story of what took place to her on that day. And I think when that day comes and the jury hears her story, it will be quite clear that there was no aspect whatsoever about this encounter which was any way or could be construed in any way consensual.
What can you share with us about any surveillance cameras in the hotel, the corridors, in the lobby, the door, that might help us all appreciate what happened?
Again, my involvement in this case with this young woman has been to support her, to help her through this process, to answer her questions, and try to help her figure out how she can put her life together from this point forward. So with respect to, again, evidence at the crime scene and what may or may not exist in terms of prosecuting this case, it's not been my concern with her, and it's not something that I could comment on.
So you can't comment also on this other report that when she went in, she left the door open, which would be normal for someone going in to clean a room as opposed to closing the door right away. You've seen those reports.
I can't comment on that. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Well, tell us a little bit more about this woman. She's from Guinea, an immigrant. She came here, several years ago, and she's described as a good Muslim. Does she wear a headscarf? What does that mean, a good Muslim?
Well, I don't know what anybody means by it, but what I think it means in her case, and from my observation of her, is this is a woman who is an observant woman. She's strong. She came to this country from Guinea under, adverse circumstances. Had a lot of difficulty there, came here essentially under an asylum-type arrangement with her young daughter. She's a single mother with limited education and virtually no opportunity for a professional career. In her homeland, she came here and found this job, was able to support both herself and her daughter, was very grateful to have this job, very grateful to be in a country in which there are laws and justice and freedom. And hopes for a better life for her daughter, as I think anyone who comes to this country does. And I have to tell you, I have great, great admiration for her, and based upon the hours that I've spent and talking to her.
Have you prepared her for what's in store over the coming weeks and months, maybe years?
Boy, here's the problem. Somebody who's the victim of a physical assault and a rape needs lots of help in many different areas. Here's someone who hasn't even had the opportunity to begin that process, to find any peace at all. What I've tried to do is to tell her that what exists today is not what's going to exist tomorrow, that her life will be okay, that she will be able to come back to a life of normalcy, that she will be safe, that she is safe, that her daughter is safe, and life will be okay for her again. In the future.
I don't know if Jeffrey Toobin is still on the phone, but if he is, I'd love him to ask a question. Jeffrey, if you have a question for Mr. Shapiro, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was distracted. I did not have a question. I don't.
You don't have a question. All right, that's fine. Jeffrey Shapiro is here. Jeffrey Toobin is here. We got a lot of Jeffreys here. Mr. Shapiro, is there anything else you want to tell our viewers that you think they need to know right now before I let you go?
Well, I would just say to you that, I've heard from people from around the world who support her. There have been a lot of things stated out here of conspiracy theories and various other things. And they're not true. This woman is telling the truth, and the most important thing to her, I believe, is to be vindicated in the fact that she is telling the truth about this story. She has no other agenda other than to tell the truth and to be able to live her life the way she did before this event took place.
And getting back to the breaking news that Jeffrey Toobin reported at the top of the hour, that his lawyers will ask for some sort of opportunity that he could be released from Rikers prison in New York and be released on bail. What I hear you saying, what I heard you saying is you think that would be a horrible mistake.
Listen, you know what? I'm devoted to this woman and this client, and I want what she wants, and I want her to feel safe. And to the extent that his freedom would impair her feeling of safety and security, that would deeply concern me.
Well, explain what, I'm going to let you go in a second, but explain that. If he's out in New York, let's say he's got an ankle bracelet, and he's in New York, she would feel threatened by that? Is that what you're saying?
Look, this is a woman who comes from a world in which safety is very difficult. It's not guaranteed. The police are not necessarily your friend. This is the background that she comes from. So the idea that this perpetrator, the person who attacked her, is free and can do what he wants to do, whether he flees the country doesn't mean that he can't do something, in her mind at least, and based upon her experience in the world, that could cause her some harm.
Jeffrey Shapiro, thanks very much. We'll continue our conversation in the days and weeks to come. Appreciate it very much, and please wish her the best. Obviously, she's gone through a lot.
Thank you very much, and thanks for letting me come here and tell at least part of her story.
All right. Well, we'll continue. Maybe we'll get more of the story in the days to come. Appreciate it. Jeffrey Shapiro. I should point out we invited Benjamin Brafman and his attorneys to come on our show. They declined our invitation, at least for now. We hope they will reconsider. They have an invitation to join us, obviously, at any time. We're going to have much more on this story coming up later here in the Situation Room.